Hello guys, Anon here. Welcome on my channel. We have a guest today, another guest. This time it's a friend with social anxiety. He struggles with social anxiety and he agreed to do this podcast with me, so that's awesome. So hey mate.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm chilling, comfy posting, unfortunate stuff, and I'm very happy that you agreed to do this. I was missing social anxiety on my channel, so I guess that will be covered for some time now. How are you?
What was that?
How are you?
I'm doing great. I just got home from a family meeting and now I'm just chilling here at my home.
That's good. Okay, maybe first question. How are you dealing with social anxiety? Therapy?
Well, it was a long process, really. When I was a teenager, I did not know I had social anxiety. I did not want to go to a therapist. So you could say that I lived my teenage years, I lived them in a very isolated way.
Okay.
It wasn't strictly that I shut myself off from the rest of the world, but uh, I always was, I never felt at ease because I always felt this anxiety and I did not know how to deal with it or even what it was. But come last year, I finally did something about it. I went to a therapist. I started doing therapy. For a while, she prescribed medication. And a year on, I can say I'm doing better. Um, Family situations, for example, don't make me nowhere near as anxious as they used to. But still, around strangers, there's always that persistent second guessing that comes with social anxiety that makes you very uncomfortable.
Yes, I hope that you are comfortable with me here.
I
Uh,
am, yes. That's why I agreed to the interview.
Okay. To be honest, social anxiety was my first diagnosis when I was 12. I was bullied.
Really?
I was bullied so hard in school that I ended up in mental asylum, mental house, for the
That's a
first time.
shame.
Yeah, at age 12. Fuck this. Sorry, I shouldn't swear. I promise myself.
It's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so you can say that therapy helps.
It does. It really does.
You just have to find a good one, like a proper one for you. Not all therapies would help everybody, like the same therapy won't help one person, but maybe help other person, right?
That is correct. I think I was lucky because I found a therapist in my first try that really suited me and really was she was instrumental in bringing about this change in me, and I got it on my first try, so I'm happy because of that.
Yeah, you're
And
lucky.
yeah, and I couldn't help but notice what you just said about you being diagnosed at 12. It's so important that people get diagnosed and start treatment as soon as possible because otherwise it might turn into something worse over time.
Exactly, it happened to me. Like turned into depression and later psychotic depression, and later schizophrenia. So yeah, so drugs and stress and predispositions for mental illness are the things that might make your life very difficult. And
Yes.
okay, what I wanted to ask you next is that what medication did you take? Did you take benzodiazepines maybe?
I can tell you right now because I'm using my laptop. Uh, it's escitalopram where I live, but I don't know what's the trade name in America or other places.
Okay, I never heard about it, but You can type later and I will write it in the comments below. So maybe some people.
Apparently,
Mhm.
in America, it's called Lexapro.
Alexa Pro, okay.
Yes, it's a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor
Mhm.
that is used to treat major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder.
Okay, later I will write down in description the name of the drug because it might
Great.
help. It might help some people, like they are looking for some kind of medication. They can propose it to their doctor. If it helped you, maybe
Yeah.
it will help them. So that's why I'm doing this podcast. To in some way enlighten people how this looks like in real life. Um,
Sometimes people know that they should act, but they need that little extra push.
yeah,
And I
exactly.
think what you're doing is great because, some people might find here their last extra push to actually get help.
Yeah, I'm counting on that I will try to get help and that my videos will help. But not we are not talking about my channel. Let's leave it. Let's talk about you. So, did you have any traumas that might you know that you developed this?
Yes, I mean, when I was a child, I had well, I still have it. I had a very dysfunctional family. And, sometimes there were situations in my family of, my parents mostly. And maybe part of the reason I always had trouble, not just related to anxiety, but social skills in general, was, the things I had to live through as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I didn't get therapy as a child. So maybe, soaking up all the trouble in my family made me.
Made you
I've
develop
spoken
this.
about
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've spoken about this at length in therapy, and I mean, it definitely contributed. I don't know to what extent, but my social anxiety and my lack of social skills was always a problem for me.
Okay, but lots of people struggle with it from what I hear, and with many other
Yes,
mental illnesses. But social anxiety is these social skills that you lack, that you are afraid to socialize in a way. Uh,
exactly. And sometimes the trouble, particularly before I got therapy, was
mhm.
that I thought of social anxiety, or rather, not social anxiety, but what I felt, what I experienced, rather than a determinant medical condition,
Mhm.
is that compared to some other mental illnesses, it just seems like you're just socially awkward. That you're just, I don't know, to me, it felt like it was something that I should get a solution for outside of therapy, outside of medication, because it was just me being awkward. But no, it's something so much bigger than that.
I know. I remember when I was like a teenager, I was going to school and I approached the gate of the school and I turned back and I was sitting for 8 hours in a forest, because I was so scared of going inside.
Yeah,
So that's the thing, that you are so scared that you avoid social situations. At least.
exactly.
Hmm.
And since it's not so overt as some other mental illnesses, you just think it's something you can change on your own, but it's not.
Yeah,
It
brush it
really is
off.
not.
No, I
Yeah,
know, mate. I know your pain, but thanks God it got better for you. It got better for me too with my schizophrenia because therapy helps me in a way that I can like talk with someone and that this person can try to give me some tricks how to deal with my mind.
yeah,
But my illness mostly is based on medication. Like schizophrenia is mostly meds based, and I have to tell
yes,
the viewers that medication is not just pharmajew. um,
yeah,
but it helps with. You just have to find proper medication and proper treatment, proper therapy. That's it. Um,
yes. And I remember so many times before I got treatment, but also during my treatment, when I
mhm.
started taking these pills and I felt nothing changed. And I felt a great pain because I really thought that many times I thought there really was no solution and that it would never get better. But it does. It does when you least expect it.
Yes, exactly, and I hope that it will be like that for my viewers too, who are struggling with some stuff of their own. So yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to go into details about the traumas if you don't want about your
Okay.
childhood. You don't have to. Just tell me that you don't want to, and it will be okay.
Yeah, I
Uh,
can tell you, it's not that bad.
if you want, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't so much my dad, but my mom that she had mental troubles of her own. I mean,
Mhm.
I would come home from school one day and she would be screaming at nothing, at the air, and she would be aggressive. She would start breaking things.
Oh
And this
Jesus.
was a constant thing that I can remember happened to me from, say, second grade all the way to my teenage years until I
Wow.
moved in with my dad. And then I moved
Mhm.
out on my own. And, you know, looking
Mhm.
back, I mean, I know I can't change the past and it's stupid dwelling in the past. Sometimes I can't help but wonder. I mean, if I hadn't gone through all this, I wasn't, if I hadn't been scared of coming home because I knew I would be miserable, because my mom would be breaking things, shouting, and doing all sorts of stuff.
Mhm.
And maybe if I had had a mother who had taught me social skills instead of just, well, shouting and breaking things, maybe my teenage years would have been a lot better because you remember what I told you at the start that my teenage years were pretty isolated.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I can't help but wonder if, I would have made friends if I.
How old
But
did
it's
you?
no use doing
Yeah.
that. What I mean is that, yes, traumas can sometimes make your life miserable, but yeah, I mean, it's no use dwelling in the past. You have to look forward, and because there is only forward, really. I mean, you need to talk about this in therapy in order to process what happened. But it's
Exactly.
no use being miserable about what happened. Yes, it was shit. Yes, it was terrible, and you probably would have fared a lot better socially in my case had you not lived through this. But hey, there's a whole life ahead of you.
Shit happens, and I thought to myself when I was thinking about my past a lot, I was like overthinking it. I had these racing thoughts about it also, and it was like I
Yes.
literally could feel my head, like, pulsating
Yeah.
from it. And I thought to myself that if I had that shitty experiences, that I should make something good out of them and
Right.
learn about stuff, learn about illnesses, mental illnesses, and I don't know, do this what I do. Uh, I'm thinking about writing a book about my experiences.
Yes.
I even started. I have 4 chapters, uh, so it might help somebody, and and that
Is
will
I
that.
think what you're doing is fantastic because um, sometimes people with mental illnesses feel very isolated. They feel as though people around them can't understand what they're going through. I
Yeah.
felt it myself. So maybe reading and listening in this podcast too about people who are going through the same troubles as you are,
Yeah,
it
maybe
can make a difference.
maybe different experiences, but the outcome is pretty much, um,
Yes.
some people have social anxiety, some develop, I don't know, borderline personality disorder, etc. They are dealing with different things, but uh, in the end, we all need help. So
We do.
it's good that we can get it in nowadays in our countries. Like you can, if you don't want, don't tell which country you are from. But I wanted to ask about mental health care in your country.
Well, I'm from Argentina. You can ask. Definitely.
Argentina, yay. Uh,
Yes.
Cool, cool. So, how's the healthcare? Do you have like public hospitals that are free of charge, or do you have to pay, or how does this look like?
Well, the state does provide psychiatric care,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's mostly confined to mental institutions rather than general hospitals. So people usually look to psychiatric help in private medical centers or
Mhm.
community-based initiatives.
Some
And
associations, right? Something like that.
yes, on the other hand, Argentina is one of the countries with the most psychologists per capita.
Oh,
I think it is the country with the most psychologists per capita. So there is no shortage of help in terms of therapy.
that's fantastic.
Um, it is, and there is an openness, particularly among people in big cities about therapy. In other countries, I hear that speaking about therapy in public is taboo, but in Argentina, you can mention it in casual conversation, and people won't blink an eyelid because it's very normal. I mean,
That's awesome.
people are
Oh
very
my
open
god.
about it.
Argentina is really first world. In
In
Pol
that regard, I think we are very open, and it's a good thing that we are open because yeah, burying mental illness is not good. Burying traumas always doesn't pay in the end.
that's really awesome, mate. I'm so
It
glad.
is.
I'm so glad that you have it so good there. In Poland, like when you go to psychiatrist, people look at you like there is something off with him about him. You know, that's I don't know. Men who look for help are, perceived as some kind of like weaker. Women
Yes.
are perceived like they cannot be good mothers when they are depressed, or God forbid schizophrenic or something like that. Uh, People are scared of schizophrenics here, and
Yeah, that's a shame because if people were more open about mental illness and therapy, I think a lot more people would come forward and live better, happier lives than they otherwise would.
mhm. Can you tell me something more about your case of social anxiety? How does it show now? Can you go to work, or
Yes, I mean, well, I have experiences related to work that, for example, back in the day, I think it was around the time I first started therapy.
Mhm.
I was working as a cashier at a fast food place.
Cashier? Oh my god, I was always so
Yes,
scared of that.
it really it was very taxing on me because having to interact with people all the time, and
Yeah, oh my god.
it is a particularly difficult thing for someone with social anxiety. So for a time I could keep up with it, but eventually it got to me because you talk to people, you second guess what you say, how you say it, how people perceive you, you think about how you come off, and your head just keeps going around, and
Uh-huh.
you end up feeling worthless. And
Oh
well,
my
I
god.
had to quit because it wasn't really doing me any good.
Yeah, it's too
Uh,
stressful for us. I think.
yes, and nowadays I am working a different line of job. I'm working. I don't face customers,
Mhm.
so that's a relief. And I think social anxiety these days for me stems mostly from interacting with people I don't know, people in the street, people I am not comfortable with.
You know,
Uh,
with people on the street, I get this thing that is called delusions of reference, that I have all the time when I'm on the street. That it's about like when you like sorry, I cannot
No problem.
I cannot collect my thoughts. It's cognitive symptoms that I have, that I have like a small focus, concentration. When you
Take
pass
all the time that you need.
when you pass a group of strangers on the street and they start laughing, I'm sure that they are laughing at me, that they are talking about me. It's like I'm the center of attention, but I don't really want it, you know, it feels like that. And at the
Yes,
time, you have the same?
I feel the same thing, but not just when they're laughing. I mean, I get nervous when I pass people in the street. And I have to say, I mean, it's embarrassing, but I have to say it because it does happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
If I see a girl that I think is really cute coming like towards me in the street, I
Uh-huh.
get nervous. I
Oh.
start, my eyes start to blink. It's very uncomfortable, but it
Uh,
does happen.
oh, Jesus Christ.
And I just have to brush it off because I have no alternative. But
Uh,
it is annoying, and even though most of the time, because of the skills I developed in therapy, are useful most of the time, I brush it off and don't think too much about it. Sometimes it does get to me, I have to say.
yeah, I have the same with these delusions. Like at the time, I'm really feeling it, that it's true that they are talking about me. But after a second, I brush it off like, oh, it's just a delusion.
I know.
Why would they talk about me? I try to rationalize it, and it works. And I can do that since I got diagnosed and read about schizophrenia. Because in the past I
Yes.
didn't know much about it. Like I was green. But do you have sometimes this weird sensation that you walk past a group of people, you get stressed, and you forget how to walk straight, and you know.
No, I don't forget how to walk straight, but when I go past a group of people, yes, sometimes I lose focus and my eyes start to blink, and it's annoying. I have to say it's very annoying, but it doesn't stress me out as much as it did prior to getting help.
Okay, so we have that covered. Very good. And I wanted to ask you, uh, what are your plans for next years? Like going to therapy, if needed, taking medication, living, functioning, like that, right?
Well, okay, yeah, I will continue to go to therapy because I find that it's very helpful. Probably the most helpful of all the things I've
Mm-hmm.
done. And other than that, I stopped taking medication a few months ago
Okay,
because, yeah, my doctor took me off the medication. So I have to say that really cheered me up in a way
lucky.
because, yeah, lucky me, eh?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that in therapy, I developed a lot of skills in order to cope with social situations that stress me out.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel comfortable enough now with these skills to go and do things that I wouldn't have done in a million years prior to going to therapy, such as, going to one of my resolutions for this new year is to start, these theater groups.
Uh-huh.
Well, I want to start attending a theater group and maybe act in a play at the end
Whoa.
of the year.
Oh.
And yeah, generally try and get out because, as I said before, I lost a lot of time, when I was a teenager because of how awkward I was, how anxious I was. And it's not so much about making up for that time as it is about
Mm-hmm.
realizing that i I can do these things now, thankfully, and that I want to do them.
Very good. I'm so happy for you. And tell me how it went with the thing. I hope we will be good friends. And I
I
wanted to.
hope so too.
That's great. I wanted to ask you, what do you think about spreading mental illness awareness, and how should we do that?
Well, I think there certainly has to be a push towards, as I said, in my country, it's not so much of a taboo,
Yeah,
but elsewhere, um, people are scared of talking about it. But in the end, mental illness is just like if you had a disease of any other organ.
yeah,
It's something that happens to people, and it's something that should be talked about, just like we talk about every disease that hasn't got anything to do with the mind, because that's how you will get people to know what this is about, and the ones that suffer from it. I think that if society in general is more open about this, then they will feel more encouraged to get help and get better fundamentally.
yeah. Very good, very good. So, from my side, I'm doing these videos and I talk with about it with people in real life. Like when they meet me, I don't like show off that I'm schizophrenic because there's nothing to show off about this. But
Yes.
after they meet me after a while, I tell them, and they are like, "Whoa, you don't look sick. Is schizophrenia real?" And when someone tells me that mental illness isn't real, like get over yourself, I usually reply that maybe I will stick you with my knife and tell you not to bleed so much. So that's
No,
that.
it's true. Yes, yes, and yes, I feel as though some people have this prejudice about mental illness being just, people being stubborn, people, but it's not. It is a condition just like any other medical condition.
Yeah, some are very complicated. Like they have group of symptoms, and these symptoms create a diagnosis. And some people call it a label, but
Yes,
I call it just a group of symptoms that is diagnosed, and it's diagnosed to be treated properly in a proper way. Yeah, like you won't treat borderline personality disorder the same way you treat, like, I don't know, schizophrenia, right? Uh,
true.
so that's that. Okay, I think we are going to finish soon because I don't know what to ask for. That was spontaneous one, but that's good. So, mate, I wish you very happy Christmas. All the best to you and your family, and I wish you best in the future with your thing that you're going to do next year. Good luck with your
Yes.
resolutions. So, thank you so much for
So,
doing this. Hmm.
no, thank you. I also wish you a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year too.
Yeah, thanks.
And I think what you're doing is great.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm
I
trying.
think that getting the word out that mental illness can be treated, that you can get better, and it is a normal thing to talk about,
Yeah,
is the Lord's work, really.
cool. I am so glad we did this. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. Bye bye.
See you.